So in Wellington, there's a man called Calvin Hasty. Now he is, I don't really know, he's quite a nice guy, wears a suit to work, some kind of like 3D industrial architect, don't know what that means, isn't really about the nature, and describes himself as someone who would like to watch rugby league and drink beer. And so one day he was leaving his little suburb of Crofton Downs, which is approximately 200 households, surrounded by bush, and he noticed a stoat in the driveway. And he said, I got really angry. But what he got angry about was the fact that during his kind of life and his time watching rugby league and drinking beer, it never occurred to him that that might be a problem. And so he took it upon himself to save the neighbourhood, and he went door knocking. Now he didn't start with stoats because that was a bit tricky, but he started with rats. And so he knocked on every door of his neighbourhood. He got $5,000 from the then Morgan Foundation, and he offered them all a rat trap. Now 1 in 5 households took a rat trap, and he offered, for those of us who do like to pick the icky rats out of the trap, he offered to go back and do that for them. And by the end of December 2015, he started reporting back to DOC that they had reached 0 detection levels of rats in their neighbourhood. Now, obviously, if you forget any of us in DOC, you'll know that we know best. And so, I'm pretty sure the response was, yeah, right. And so we went in behind him and did a monitor, and he was right. And so that doesn't mean there were no rats in that neighbourhood, but what it meant was that they were tracking so low that they couldn't be detected in the monitoring tools that they had put in. That's incredible, right? Now, if he'd done that by himself, wouldn't have made a lick of difference. But by getting 1 in 5 households on board, he transformed his community. They have kaka breeding in their local parks. They have all taken up this kind of mantle and this whittle of how they're going to make it even better and even better, right? And so that's the bit that I love, and that's particularly the bit that I love about the mahi of the people in this room, which is why I'm here tonight. I can't tell you a lot about Jobs for Nature, because it's one of those situations where it appears that we are building the plane as we fly it. But I can tell you that the principles of it and the kaupapa behind it is a pretty cool opportunity for us all. So what the government have said is, while there are a lot of people out of work, which has been a really stressful, desperate situation for people all over the country, we have an opportunity to put them into work and to do good things for the stuff we care about. And so we have a real kind of amplifier here that adds to the amplifier of the work of Te Whawhai, the work of Te Ara Kākāriki, the work of Living Water, the work of Isaac, the work of the council. You know what I mean? Like it's an and. It's the 1 in 5 households that we're going through here that's actually going to make this a real thing. I don't know about you guys, but lockdown was a buzz. So this is every morning I had to relay to, so first I got the message about 8 a.m. from my Deputy Director Generals about what was happening in the department and how we were going to work to look after all our team. Now bear in mind, taking 200 people in this region that I'm ultimately responsible for and putting them inside, people who work outside, and putting them inside within under 36 hours, including one of my managers who'd gone on a hunting trip on Stewart Island that him and his mates had been saving up for 15 years, and I nearly lost him, but we found him in the end, so that was good. So for about 7 weeks, my team saw me staring down a computer at them every day, day in, day out, for a really long time. That's my son. For inexplicable reasons, he dressed up as a tuatara one morning, and when I turned the computer on to meet with the team, instead of me being in the frame, I pushed go and then ran out of the frame, and he spoke to them because I figured they were bored of looking at me. But we learned some cool things, and I guess I'm sure all of you did too. I'm sure there were some experiences that were pretty awful. I probably spent the first 4 days walking around feeling like I was going to throw up on my feet. But there are some things I would like to keep. There are some things, that thing about slowing down, that thing about being a human being, not a doing, that thing about being connected. I want us to hold on to that. These are some of my managers. This is Formal Friday, obviously, which my manager at Ara Kākāriki took very seriously. She was channeling her Hillary Barry pretty much every Friday. And all of a sudden we discovered that we didn't all have to drive to a place to be together once a month for our monthly regional leadership team meeting. And so my other manager there is at Twizel. She has 3 small children, including some twins. And she's obviously transferred from her bedroom and having a wee giggle at Sally. So we had this opportunity. We had lower carbon emissions, we had online meetings, we have a more thoughtful approach to travelling. Prior to lockdown, I was probably on a plane every week. I am an eco-terrorist. I don't want to do that anymore. It's not the right thing, and look, we didn't need to. We had more inclusion meetings, so if you are a raving extrovert like myself, meetings are great, right? So if Craig and I are in a meeting, we'll have a lot to say. But if you are not a raving extrovert, they might be challenging, and you might have a lot of really important stuff to say, and you might never get the chance. What I found was that we use Microsoft Teams, some of you will use Zoom, some of you might use Skype. I found that this became a more inclusive experience for some of my more introverted members of the team, and people got to have a say, even if it was just sticking something up in the chat bar to say, nah, I don't agree with any of that. I feel like that's a good thing, right? We need that diversity of thinking in order to do good things. Actually, before I get to that, I got some stats today to say, oh, and the other thing is I got more time with my family. Right? I love my job, I love it. Every single day something happens that makes me go, what? But I do love it, but it takes a lot. And it takes a lot of me that I can't give to my husband and my 7-year-old and my broader extended family. And so what I learned was I could actually sit around the table and have dinner with my family every night. I could walk my dog. I think that the whole part of us makes us the best part of us. And we have, for a really long time, put work over there, and family over there, and never the twain shall meet. And all of a sudden, we were seeing toddlers having tantrums. We saw people's dogs, cats, parents, spouses, occasionally inappropriately, and mostly that's a good thing. So if 1 in 5 New Zealanders opted to work from home once a week, we would prevent 84,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide entering the atmosphere each year. Once a week. That's equivalent to taking 35,000 cars off the road. So there are some things we can do right now that start to make it better for our country and for the things that we love. We could also cut our annual transport emissions by another 65,000 tonnes if business travellers flying between Auckland and Wellington chose to swap their meetings for a Zoom, Google or Teams video chat. So there's been a lot that we could get out of there. The thing is, I can tell you this till I'm blue in the face, and I know you all know this, right? But other people don't. And so my challenge to you is I really need you to tell your nature story. Now, some of you might know who that man is. And so what I will tell you about Jessie is that 5 years ago, I got roped into an interview. So I'm 2 weeks into the job of the first threatened species ambassador. I didn't necessarily know what it meant to plant trees. And somebody asked me to do an interview with a man I'd never met, Jessie, about why we stopped losing so many commercial sponsors. So at that stage, we just lost BNZ. BNZ had opted to not renew their sponsorship for the Kiwi Recovery Program, and I think Rio Tinto were on the way out for Kākāriki as well. And so it was absolutely why, what's going on, why is this happening? And while the interview was happening, it was a live interview, it was ready in New Zealand, I could hear Jessie on the other line, I could kind of hear it go, yeah. And I realised he was bored. And then I realised I was bored. And then I realised that I like to think that I'm quite an interesting person. And so I thought, oh no. So I said, you know what, Jessie, let's just cut to the chase. The problem here isn't that we're losing sponsorship. It's that everybody wants to sponsor a K-bird, Kākāriki. Everybody wants a kakapo or a kiwi, and nobody cares about Schmeagol the gravel maggot, which was a species I had just learned about the week before from the marine science team in Wellington, who told me that Schmeagol the gravel maggot is this incredible species. It is a nudibranch, for those of you who are obsessed with nudibranchs, and nudibranch lovers tend to be. And it's an air-breathing nudibranch that lives in the interstitial spaces between the stones and the gravel on south coast beaches of Wellington. It's about the size of my fingernail, kind of looks like a bogey. And why don't we sponsor Schmeagol the gravel maggot? And I put the phone down and I thought, well, that's drawn it. And about 30 seconds later, Jesse's producer rang me back and said, could you do that every week? And so Critter of the Week was born. Jesse has said this publicly at a couple of events, and I didn't realise this, had no interest in nature. Wasn't interested, thought it was for people who were a bit weird, and thought it was a bit earnest, a little bit yogurt nitty, and hempsuit weary. It wasn't his thing. I mean, he's a foodie from Gravelin. So, however, look at the monster we've created. He is my favourite protege. He's now more passionate about the nature than I am, and he and I have done a few events now. More recently, the Waikato Wine and Food Festival, which I highly recommend. And we both went to it. We were both waiting in a queue for something. There were people everywhere. And 3 times someone came up to Jesse and said, Jesse, I've got a problem with rats at my house. And I've tried the Doc 150, but I had an A24, but I had it and I was just standing there like, doo-doo. So I guess my message for you all is, I know you all love the nature, that's why you've given up your Wednesday night to come and listen to me rabbit on. You need to tell that story. You need to create some Jessies so that we can amplify this message the same way that we are amplifying those green dots, those new natural places, and connecting them all together. This is my favourite cartoon. I've probably used it for the last 15 years. We have a real opportunity with COVID, right? We can do something really cool like green jobs, livable cities, renewables, but what if it's a big hoax and we create a better world for nothing? Wouldn't that be terrible? There's only winning in this, right? There's no downside to this money. The only thing we need to do is to work together, not get precious about who's doing which bits and who's doing which creek, and to find space to amplify our outcomes through collaboration, not competition. My favourite quote from another great man, Don Merton said, "They are our national monuments, they are our Tower of London, our Arc de Triomphe, our pyramids. We don't have this ancient architecture that we can be proud of and swoon over and wonder. But what we do have is something far, far older than that. No one else has kiwi, no one else has kakapo. They have been around for millions of years, if not thousands of millions of years. And once they're gone forever. And it's up to us to make sure they never die out." Kia ora.